Welcome back. Tonight, we present the first EU lore reading on the channel. Entry 18, Hell House, by J. Pikes. If you appreciate the story, leave a like, and we might cover its sequel, Witness Logging. But until then, on with tonight's story. Even before we moved, it was fairly clear something wasn't right with our father. It wasn't something I could clearly describe. He would greet us at the door, smile, and laugh as he always had. But whenever he was home, I was coated in a thin veil of anxiety and dread, as if something bad could happen at any moment. I thought it was just in my head until I overheard my brother John bring it up to Mom. She dismissed it, but it made it significantly harder to play off. It only grew worse after the move. Dad came home early right in the face. He barged in, tossed his tome to the floor, and loudly took a seat at the table. He was never the type of man to lose his temper lightly. He plotted some petty revenge before resorting to an outburst. Mother quickly sent us away, but we instinctively eavesdropped from the staircase. The witch coven had expelled him for, quote, unsupervised and unethical misconduct. I never learned the details, but considering what was to come, I can't say I blame them. He told our mother that they were fools, close-minded cowards complacent in mediocrity, that they feared his greatness and what he could achieve. He sounded like the apostate mages I read about, blood-drinking demon worshippers feeding from the dark arts. Mother and John would later compare him to them, but it never really clicked with me. He had their mentality, but he laughed at them too, said they were dedicated to a bunch of pissant grubs, and that he was in tune with true divinity. Within the months, we were packing our bags. I remember that Mother was the least happy with the decision. She expressed her frustration through backhanded compliments and passive aggression, saying things like, well, it smells better than it looks, or, it's almost as comfortable as the old house. John saw it as progress. The manor we moved into was significantly bigger, 3 stories, several bedrooms, and a spacious attic. But my greatest interest was the courtyard. The house was but the centerpiece of the property. An arched gazebo, a lush garden, and several bronze statues were just right outside. There was even a little creek with a bridge. If not for my father's actions, I believe I could have come to call it home. I remember the still air of my new bedroom when I first entered. The sea of dust that coated the antique bed and wardrobe, the creak of the warped floorboards, and the speckled wallpaper held so pristine at the time, only to coat the room in a dated haze through our modern lens. From the stairs I could watch Mother clean. Considering her contempt of our new house, I was surprised to see how dedicated she was to maintain it so rigorously. Not that it was decrepit by any means, but the dust had been encouraged to linger. Perhaps it made her feel in control, even when our father made us bleakest. He made an early claim to the basement and forbid us entry, even Mother. We respected it, but it only bloomed our curiosity. The first week in the house mirrored the final days of our old life. The unsettling aura around Father seemed to have released itself from him, preferring to shroud our new home instead. Even on the rare occasion that Father was out, the impending dread failed to depart along with him as it had before. I was in the library when I first took notice of it. A spacious room aligned with shelves of books and a scarlet rug in its center. I skimmed the pages of a journal belonging to someone called Tan. From what I could gather, he or she never lived here, so I'm not sure how it ended up in a library. I was pulled away by Father's footsteps as he walked behind me into the entrance hall. When the double door was closed behind him, I waited for the tension to cease. But it didn't. Looking back, I don't recall a single day in the house where it showed us mercy. I called out Father's name to ensure he had actually gone. My response was not appeased. I shifted back to the book, but was confused to find it had been placed neatly on the chair. It didn't initially alarm me. The cognitive disengagement prompted by Father was more than a valid explanation, but I couldn't help but fixate on the lingering dread as I returned it to the desk. The journey back to my room was interrupted by John, who was having a stare down with one of the old portraits by the stairs. I took the space beside him and looked upon it. I had noticed the painting when we were moving in, a blurred portrait of a man with glasses on a purple backdrop. Besides the glasses and his short, brown hair, he was too abstract to distinguish any defining features. I don't like him, said John. He looks bad. As vague as the painting was, I couldn't help but agree. My mind's attempt at pareidolia showed an almost sinister stare. It was as if my brother's words had awoken a dark presence in the brushwork. I pulled my gaze away and ushered John to do the same. We spent the remainder of the hour exploring the pipe organ further down the hall. I pressed down a series of keys. The loud chord jolted me back. It was a marvelous instrument. At the time, I had hopes to learn to play it, but I suppose some things aren't meant to be. Do you like it here? I asked John. He stared back with me with his soft brown eyes and nodded hesitantly. He lazily rested his palm onto his cheek and began to fiddle with the organ. He was never much of a talker, but I had learned to interpret his body language the best one could. I could tell he was happier, but there was an undertone of disappointment, like something he expected turned up absent. "What's on your mind?" "The fear," he replied sharply. "Around Dad. It's still here." I had never really called it fear before, but it was definitely on the same road. I joined him on the organ stool and ran my fingers along the keys, carving an imprint to the dust. "It'll go away," I reassured. "It's just the stress of changes, new house, new room. It's normal." I couldn't tell if John accepted my answer. Actually, I don't even think I accepted it at the time. At some point in the second week, we were introduced to the knocker. At least, that is when we noticed him. He could have been messing with us from day one, but if he had, none of us were pristine enough to catch on. Sounds throughout the night would always repeat. It was always the more subtle noises. Floor creaks, footsteps, or just the house settling. Had John not brought it to my attention, I can't say if we would have noticed it at all. He ran into the kitchen one morning and told us that his bedroom door was knocking back. Sure enough, when he knocked on the door, 3 subsequent knocks followed, as if someone on the other side was mimicking the pattern. It wasn't exclusive to his door. The wall, the floor, my door, even the windows. Any sort of audible vibration would play back to us within a few seconds. John and I spent more time than we'd like to admit experimenting with the knocker, but we only left with more questions. The sound would only echo if below a certain volume. If we closed the door, the sound would repeat. But if we slammed it, nothing. And the sound would always wait until it was finished to play back to us. Whether it be a single knock, or a series in quick succession, it would always wait until the silence echoed back. This disproved Mother's normal echo theory. Echoes don't wait for a sound to be finished before returning. It was truly as if there was a ghost following us around mimicking us. Father didn't seem concerned by it, even after experiencing the phenomenon firsthand. All he had to say was it was interesting. He had the same reaction to the messages, which started around the same time. They were more so just random words than they were expressions of thought. The first one was found by Mom, the word park scratched into the kitchen floor. Since then, they became another regular occurrence around the property. Normally, it was just one word, sometimes 2 or 3 with no apparent correlation. Like the words bat and jump were found together carved into one of the decorative pillars outside. The only one that sounded like it could have been a message was, "There is disappointment," found in my very own bed frame. As strange as it was, that was literally all we could say at the end of the day. Sure, it was weird, but it wasn't concerning. It wasn't putting us in any danger, and I'm not even sure we would have noticed it was not for John. The knocker would come to be expected when inside the house. I would sometimes catch John and even Mother tap into the walls out of boredom just to have their melodic taps play back to them. By the end of the months, we didn't even think twice about it. It was just a silly quirk about the place. Dad started spending increasing amounts of time in the basement, sometimes until long after the sun went down. To this day, I don't know what he was doing down there, but I am positive it plays into his, quote, connection to true divinity, or whatever curse he was foolish enough to bring upon our home. I laid down and gazed out my frosted window, the blurred shape of the statue in the courtyard sending my mind adrift. The statue claimed to be a depiction of Alistair Twin, but if you ask me, it looked more like my father than it did the realm's founder. I got used to him watching over me while I slept. A guardian angel of bronze. I had a dream that night. I was in the house, the living room to be specific. The windows showing nothing but darkness, an endless black abyss. I stood in silence, watching, waiting. Everything just stopped. Was it not for the dread, I might have even found it tranquil. A loud crash echoed behind me as the basement door flew off the hinges. I froze and stared into the corridor at the horror behind the dread. A lanky man with a mangled form sat frozen on the stairs. His head had been stretched and flattened, as if it had been crushed with an anvil. His mouth was held open by a frame of wire held in place by nails and barbs. The same applied to his torso, which appeared to be at least 3 other bodies stitched together. The arms were relatively short, but the fingers were almost longer than the torso. I sprinted towards the front door, hearing the monster throw itself after me. I pulled on the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. But I didn't stop. I pulled until my hands went white, trying desperately for the slightest hint of progression until the monster's fingers wrapped around my waist. I started screaming and thrashing as I felt its claws dig into my back. I closed my eyes and refused to look upon it, kicking and screaming as it went. And right as I thought I was dead, it stopped. I sat up in my bed and caught my breath, the morning sun showering my room, and the sheets tangled around my waist. My relief was taken by the smell of smoke and arguing downstairs. According to John, the sofa in the living room hall had spontaneously combusted. Mom assumed him a liar and had him drag the burnt couch outside to the trash. The couch wasn't the last piece of furniture to set fire. A week later, the drapes in the upstairs hall were conspicuously on fire as well, an incident of which that could not have been John, as he was downstairs with me when we smelt the smoke. By now, the house was really starting to freak me out. I believed in the paranormal, but this was different. Not to say our house wasn't haunted, but more to say whatever was haunting us was wrong, even for a ghost. That night at dinner, we attempted to explain to Father what had happened, but he never even heard us. He spoke about how well his research was going and that he was going to bring in some specialists to help things move along. He could not have been less interested in what happened to the curtains. These so-called specialists turned out to be 3 men, one of which I recognized as a mage of the coven. I assume the others were as well, but I never got the chance to speak with them. Nods in passing were as far as interactions with them went. They would typically arrive at dawn, follow Father into the basement, and remain there until dusk, where they would emerge, and the men would leave for the day. Something interesting that I realized after the fact was how quiet they were down there. 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, and not a single sound ever came from the basement. This repeated daily for several weeks, until one day, one of them didn't come back up. They had all been accounted for that morning, but only 3 returned. The remaining specialist appeared shaken and uneasy, and Father looked deep in thought. They didn't address me until I asked what had happened. Father shot me a sharp, impatient expression, leading me to excuse myself to the library. I intended on eavesdropping, but no words were exchanged. My young mind began to wonder what could have happened in the basement. What were they doing down there? Why was it so secretive? I couldn't help but recall my dream of the creature. Could it actually be down there? Did it kill one of the mages? My brainstorm was interrupted by one of the men approaching me, just as the footsteps of my father faded toward the door. He had steadied his breathing, but his hands continued to tremble, and the color had yet to return fully to his face. "How much do you know your father's work?" "Little," I confessed. The man looked toward the floor and sighed. "He is playing with fire, the kind of fire we're not sure how to put out. He is a fool to keep you in this house." He promptly left. I would never hear from this man again. The other, whose name I learned was Seb, continued to return periodically. Whatever had happened wasn't quite enough to drive him off. But he never did return to the basement. He would stand in front of the door, but never enter, as if Father had stationed him to stand guard. Even before I got to know him, I felt safer in his presence. It was hard to explain, but if the monster from my dreams ever arose from those stairs, I'd prefer a large man to help hold the door. Casual conversation slowly chipped away at Seb's security guard energy, and revealed a man I'd come to remember fondly. He was a covered expat, as I figured, one of the few that left voluntarily to explore other ventures with the desert folk, but was now back in Twinian province on special request from Father. One day he confessed to me and John that he was here to protect us from whatever Father couldn't control. But as I would come to find, Seb couldn't exactly control it either. My nightmares got worse. Hideous forms haunted me in my subconscious. Lanky humanoids with skin stretched way too tightly around their faces and elongated bodies. Shapeless masses of gore and strangers in masks. None of my injuries ever led to the real world, but it didn't make the sensation of being attacked any easier to bear. After a particularly egregious dream, I woke up to John standing by my bed. "Sorry, I thought the Shadow Man was hurting you." "Shadow Man? Have you not seen him? He lives in the mirror." When I got up to wash my face, I saw him. A blackened silhouette of a man in a robe stood in the doorframe. I spun around and instinctively threw myself backward onto the vanity, only to see nothing. It was as if John's word had manifested the Shadow Man, because I continued to see him regularly after that. He wasn't like the Knocker. He wasn't predictable. Whenever I thought I was used to him, he would do something new. He started appearing outside of the mirror, out of the corner of my eye, only to vanish as I tried to focus on him. I was in the kitchen when he officially crossed the line for me. I heard Mother scream from the living room and stumbled back as she was thrown into the wall by an invisible attacker. A long streak began to develop on her back, pooling blood as it traveled, as if she had been slashed with a knife. Furniture threw itself across the room in a direction, and the fireplace seemed to rage and roar as flames projected toward us. Our screams summoned Seb, who rushed in, scooped up Mother in her arms, and sprinted out the door. He carried her down the road, and luckily the attacker didn't follow. With Mother sobbing in my arms, I turned back toward the house, at the Shadow Man that stared back from the upstairs window. There was a fight that night. Father's reaction to Mother's attack was comparable to the Knocker, or the appearing words. Nothing more than an interesting observation. Mother demanded that we leave, that this house was not safe. Seb came to her defense, explaining it was unwise to expose his wife and young children to his experiments. I was hoping they would discuss that more, but if it was brought up again, I missed it. John and I returned to the porch as the bickering persisted. His eyes drifted to the soul lantern above us. Father said it protected us against evil spirits, and that its light could cast away any shadow from this world. Yeah, this world. I scoffed under my breath. Marcy? I don't like this house. Can we go home? I gave him a hug and offered to take him on a walk through the courtyard to clear our heads. Any questions I might have had regarding our ghost intentions were put to bed. It knew. It had to have known. When we opened the gate into the courtyard, we were stopped in our tracks at what greeted us. Or rather what didn't. The statue, my bronze angel, was gone. Completely removed from the base without a trace. It knew. It knew it gave me comfort. To take away the one thing in this godforsaken house that gave me solidarity was a clear statement. I sprinted past John back to the front door to reveal what had happened. Of everything that had happened, this was the one thing to get a true reaction from Father, as if everything up to this point was just part of a script, and this wasn't on it. He acted significantly more concerned about the statue disappearing than he did about the attack on Mother's life. There were no drag marks or any sign of its removal. It was just gone. The rectangular base was still there, but it was as if the statue on top never even existed. It never turned up, not even to harass us. On our way inside, I grabbed Father's arm and practically demanded that he explain what the hell was happening. He smiled and rubbed my shoulder. I am on the verge of understanding a power the world has never seen before. And once I do, you won't have anything to be afraid of anymore. I had no choice but to be content with his answer. It didn't cease my questions, but it was as straight as Father had been with me in months. None of us slept that night. I sat there lying in bed, staring at the mocking reminder of the Alistair statue, until my mind drifted away. I still can't tell you if I slept that night. My eyes darted around my darkened bedroom, the lingering presence of the Shadow Man engulfing my subconscious, as if standing directly in front of me, and I was none the wiser. I saw cracks and patterns in the wallpaper warp into twisted expressions of disgust and contempt, seemingly enraged to the core by my mere existence. I watched the faces lock onto me and follow me as they floated around the wall. At one point, I could have sworn the wall was bulging outwards, as if it were made of jelly and something was trying to break through. By the time of dawn, it had ceased. The morning sun discredited any notions of moving faces or horrors in the wallpaper. That dream was relatively tame compared to what else I had experienced, but I'm not even sure if it was a dream. It felt pretty real, and I don't remember waking up. I got out of bed late, after Seb had already arrived. They were arguing once again, as if they had just taken a few hours to recharge their crazy, and continued as if they hadn't even stopped. Mother was demanding release, that we leave this place, and to stop whatever madness he was consulting downstairs. Seb supported her argument, telling Father it was unwise to keep us here once again. John was noticeably absent. I found him in the gazebo outside, sitting with his knees clutched against his cheeks, the wind blowing against his shaggy brown hair, exposing his pale face and fatigued eyes. How'd you sleep? I asked almost sarcastically. I didn't. I sat beside him and confessed, I didn't have the best night myself. He raised his head and stared at me. Marcy, what's wrong with our house? I sighed and looked up at the property. It was hard facing him in this state. He was the only one that was actually excited to move here, and to see it replaced with fear and exhaustion was difficult. Father says, I stopped myself. It was no use in making excuses anymore. Father has no idea what he's gotten us into. What has he gotten us into? I don't know. We'll be okay. I promise. That promise to John is one of my biggest regrets. Call it what you want. Sibling reassurance, wishful thinking, manifesting positive vibes. Whatever it was a promise I knew I couldn't keep. Even if John knew that, it doesn't make me feel any better. No one could have predicted. Well, maybe Father could. I've grown to despise him. He deserved everything he got, except our company in the nothing. Mother summoned us for tea and lunch from the back door. John laid back against the stone platform and closed his eyes. Bring me something back. Mother didn't question why John didn't follow me. Seb was at the table buried in a tome, and Father had already retreated to the basement. What you reading? I prompted Seb. Nothing useful, he admitted, not moving his gaze. What your dad is doing, there doesn't seem to be a contingency for it. Do you even know what he's doing? I was getting tired of the vagueness. If our father's work was putting our lives in danger, I wanted to know exactly what we were up against. But Seb didn't know. I don't even think Father knew. Just that he was drawn to something shiny behind a forbidden barrier. All Seb knew was that it was dangerous, and unlike anything any mage had ever seen. When I returned to John, he was asleep. Refusing to wake him up, I laid down the plate of snacks beside him and went back inside. It was probably the first night of actual sleep in days. The Shadow Man, or evil spirit, was growing more restless. It hurled books, a chair, and even a knife at Mother and me in would-be injuries prevented by Seb. The mage had grown clever at countering the spirit. At least the flying objects. John refused to come back inside, even when Mother yelled at him. My brother vowed to never step foot in that house again until whatever was tormenting us had gone. Mother could relate. We all could. But she wouldn't have it. He was brought, against all better judgment, back inside. I later asked Mother why she had forced him inside. It was arguably safer in the yard. Mother told me it was to keep an eye on him. The full extent of the entity's power was unknown. And considering the statue, it wasn't fair to dismiss the courtyard as a safe zone. It made sense, but watching her drag him kicking and screaming only visualized our imprisonment here.
As the weeks went on, Father's condition continued to worsen. His hair and beard had grown out considerably, and showers had become an afterthought. He looked drained and sleep-deprived, but showed no sign of altering his routine. One day I saw him mumbling at the mirror in the main hall. I couldn't see anything past him, but I could figure he was there. 2 nights later was the last straw. We finally finished dinner, and Seb had just left for the night. I was approaching the stairs when the house began to quake, and the lanterns flickered. John's cries drew my eyes to the left where he stood staring at the weird painting. He moved. John, come on, something's wrong. My brother's eyes remained locked on the abstract face. I repeated his name and grabbed his shoulder, until I saw it too. The brush strokes on the bottom of the face were slowly contorting into a sinister smile. John, come on! I pulled him harder as the face began to press against the frame of the painting, much like the wall warping in my room. John let an ear-piercing scream as the man began to force his way out of the painting. The organ blared to life and all the lamps in the house continued to extinguish in their light as the painting moaned and stretched, as whatever it was thrashed and clawed its way through the surface of the canvas. I grabbed John by the waist and pulled him violently back toward the living room. I shouted for Mother, but no response could be heard over the quaking. We found her on the floor in the library. Books, tables, chairs, and anything that wasn't nailed to the ground was flying in a tornado around her. Without thinking, I dove in and grabbed her by the arm and stumbled her to her feet. She grabbed our hands and rushed us to the front door, only for all the furniture in the hallway to fling itself at the front door like a magnet, creating a barrier. We rushed through a barrage of flying objects and smoke as the west hallway wall had spontaneously combusted into flames. The back door had been barricaded just the same. Mother ran to the basement and began to scream for Father, completely disregarding the new message on the door. The stars are eyes. Mother's screams turned to pleas that still went unheard. Eventually she rushed into the nearest bedroom and threw us into the wardrobe and slammed it behind us, leaving us in total darkness. And to our surprise, absolute silence. I couldn't tell if the activity outside actually ceased or if the house was just warping my perception. For all I knew, this could all be a dream. Either way, it didn't last. John shook in my arms as I tried to find the faintest resemblance of bliss in the quiet, but I perked up as a sound began to emerge. Thick, mucky footsteps, like someone was stomping through mud down the hallway. Gurgled breathing quickly followed as it grew louder. I cut my hand over John's mouth as the gloopy stomps entered the room and stopped right in front of the cabinet door. It felt like an eternity sitting there cramped in that cabinet. Any second the wardrobe would shake and we'd be ripped apart by whatever horror awaited us. But instead, it spoke.
Crying mountains and silent lullabies, frozen howls and boiling dreams, cheers of forever and the ghosts of never. The stars would bleed and the fog smiled. Then God screamed and we laughed. Oh, how we laughed.
The sultry footsteps turned away and faded out toward the door. I have no idea what that meant. I've never bothered to figure it out. Just thinking about the incident makes me sick to my stomach. It's probably for the best I don't ponder on it too much. We stayed in the wardrobe until Mother retrieved us a few minutes later. She had managed to force open one of the downstairs windows and quickly helped us through it. A trail of black sludge mixed with flakes of purple and brown led from the base of the wardrobe down the hall and around the corner to what I could assume was the painting by the stairs. The house was quiet, but we weren't about to squander our opportunity. We got down the road and started walking towards Seb's house. He lived on a secluded farm about an hour away, but it was that or walk 3 hours to town. About 10 minutes into the journey, John broke the ice. "We're never going back, are we?" "No," said Mother. "What about Dad?" "He either comes to his senses and joins us, or he can rot with the rest of the place." It was harsh, but I can't blame her. Whatever power he was playing with was going to kill us all, and he didn't care. Father had always been dedicated to his studies, but I never could have imagined he'd be content with our death for the sake of research. Our family was never close, even before we moved. With Father in particular, our relationship rarely suppressed casual small talk. We coexisted, but I could not say that we had any sort of bond one might expect. The recent events had turned my radical indifference to blatant disgust and borderline resentment. Mother echoed my scowl. John seemed more sad than anything. It was truly the most mature response to his actions. This was his own doing, and if this was the last we saw of him, there would be no others to blame. When we finally made it to Seb's, I didn't bother trying to eavesdrop on the conversation. I took John to the guest room and crashed. I was still terrified, but being out of that house, my body felt safe for the first time in months, and all the stored fatigue hit me like a wall of bricks. We stayed with Seb. We fed his animals, played in the fields, and for once things actually seemed normal again. Better than normal. No more nightmares or horrors or ghosts or apathy toward the mundane. The mundane was all I wanted. And for a brief moment, I had forgotten about the Hell House. That wasn't until he knocked on the door one evening about a month later. I was surprised to see him alive, but I could have gone the rest of my life without seeing him again. Hell, I should have, but something was different. Father actually looked good. He was well dressed and clean shaven. A state I hadn't seen in years, if ever. The dark aura that followed him was gone, and most shocking of all, he apologized. He notably didn't believe in apologies. Why apologize for a lesson learned, he would always say. Now we both know the consequences. Pride projection, manipulation, whatever you want to call it. It was constant from my first days in this world to now. Except, now it wasn't. Seb clenched his fist at the side of him and told him off. It was everything I wanted to hear out loud. Everything that needed to be said. The bliss of my validation was cut short by Mother. Whether it be his freshened state or the bounce of his aura, an old flame was rekindled between them. A flame that I knew would burn us to the ground. His demeanor made it hard to remain angry. Father explained that he was a fool, and that he called it quits on whatever he was trying to do. He said that all we needed to do was cleanse the house and that we could be a family again. The thought of going back there, ghost or no ghost, made me sick. The idea of going back to our trauma, it broke me. You disgust me, I mumbled. I shut down Mother's attempts to scold me and stared at my father. We nearly died because of you, and you want us to go back? I cursed at him, but he didn't rebuttal. He met my gaze and agreed. You're right. I have no business justifying my actions to you. I can't blame you if you hate me, and when this is all over, and you decide you never want to see me again, that is your call to make. All I ask is that you help me cure the house. Such forces do not belong in this world. His words felt genuine, but there was a look, a twitch in his eye, and the faintest shadow of a smirk. John's voice stopped me from slamming the door. He ran past me into Father's outstretched arms. Is our house still? For now. But that is why I'm here. I need help fixing it. From Seb? From all of you. How? I asked. We're not mages. Why not tell the Coven? The Coven would have me put to death if they learned of any of this. Let us go now. The ritual must be performed before sundown. We should have called the Coven. We could have said anything. That someone else did it. That it was like that when we moved in. Anything to get anyone else over there. But I have a feeling it wouldn't have changed much. I don't blame John for what happened. I will not allow whatever this is to gaslight me into holding my younger brother responsible for trusting the disturbed man we call Father. It was his doing. From the moment we first arrived to the Hell House, to the moment now that we returned, it was a wreck. Significantly worse than when we left. The wall between the library and the entrance hall was completely burned away, and boards and rubble littered the floor. It was difficult, but we all took our seats at the dining table. As we joined hands, I couldn't help but realize Father didn't have a spell tome in front of him. Seb questioned it before I could, and Father chuckled. No book has what we're doing tonight. He sounded way too excited. Nothing like a father trying to desperately undo his mistakes. There was a bizarre tension in the air. It wasn't the dread, but you know that feeling you get when you look at the door and just have a feeling someone's standing behind it? It was like that. The house was also extraordinarily cold, to the point where Mother and John were visibly shivering. It was wrong. The whole thing was wrong. I got up and Father's demeanor drastically shifted. His wide eyes locked onto me.
Sit.
Boomed a deep voice. A voice not his own. I froze, and hesitantly did as I was told. Seb visibly struggled to move, held back by an unseen force. My mind raced as Father began to mutter what I could only assume was in reverse, containing sounds impossible for the human vocal range. He wasn't cleansing the house. It was a lie, tricked again into being a part of this sick little experiment. But thinking back, I'm not even sure this thing was Father at all. Either way, I was too angry to be afraid. I cursed and shouted at him, but he paid me no mind. Father removed his robe, revealing an ornate seal carved into his chest. Seb broke free from his restraints, but was quickly thrown across the kitchen. Mother screamed and tried to pull away, but to no avail. We jolted and pulled at our limbs, trying desperately to get them to obey our commands. We continued to struggle even as the house began to quake again. My curses, Mother's screams, and John's tears began to bleed into the shaking of the house. The thing in Father's skin began to convulse and twitch. His mouth opened wider than any person should have been able to, as his face began to peel and fold in on itself. The chanting continued even as Seb fired blasts of light at the monster. Father's body began to stretch and elongate as various faces began to press against his skin. Wires sprouted from the floor and bound his arms and gaping jaw. His fingers stretched and grew as his eyes sank into his face. The monster from my dream lunged at Seb. The Shadow Man, now clear as day, watched from the mirror behind them. A man with gray skin and purple robes, eyes glowing like sapphires. He stepped closer, and through the mirror as if it were a wall of liquid. As if on cue, everything in the house took arms against Seb. The suit of armor in the living room threw itself onto the mage as he desperately fended off the purple specter from the mirror. The candles exploded and the mounted deer head began to emit a horrific screech. I continued my fruitless effort to escape my seat at the table and watched in horror as the house mauled our guardian to death. The one thing to arise from Father's efforts was slowly beaten and mangled before us. The armor lifted Seb's broken body over his shoulder and sent him crashing through the basement door, tumbling into the darkness. A green light began to emit from the basement, quickly growing into a blinding degree. I closed my eyes and the screams stopped. Our father was a fool, driven to the depths of insanity, drawn to a place even the demons of hell dare not speak of, a place he couldn't help but drag us with. I cannot explain what happened that night, where I ended up, or if this is even real, but it is where I remain, in this place. My mind is no longer my own. It is shared by infinite screams of consciousness. I hear them. I hear them all. Mother, Father, Seb, and John. Their screams, their confusion, their distress, and longing for peace. I awoke in the courtyard, but not our courtyard. The land had been reduced to an afterthought, bound only by the loose memory of what was in the void of space. I could see the house in the distance, the lantern on the porch beaming through the darkness. I've been back a few times. It's not empty, but it is where it is most quiet, where the rules of reality seem the most consistent. In the time since that day, I have forgotten the feeling of bliss, silence, and rest. But I remember the longing for it. But I also do not wish its return. Father was right. I do not have to be afraid anymore. We have become part of something bigger, something beyond anyone could ever imagine. The collective consciousness of the dream void. I hear their thoughts, and they hear mine. They laughed at first, but I've learned not to question the happenings of this world. Something they seem to respect. John and Mother aren't as lucky. It is my one regret. They remain lost and confused. All I want to do is tell them to let go. Let go of the expectation of understanding. Mom, if you ever find me, I thank you for the life I had before. Do not feed emotion to this place. It will sharpen them and hurl them back. And John, don't blame yourself. Don't think about it. What's done is done. I will find you again. In a land without time, forever will fly by. To Seb, thank you for trying to protect us. I couldn't expect you to have a solution to this madness. You reached out your hand to us, and Father just used it to pull you into the pit with us. And to Father, may the beast you dare to tame break your mind each and every day. May your confusion cut you and bleed you dry, rebuild and do it again. May the deepest bowels of this nightmare seep into your very soul. Sitting here at our kitchen table with the remains of me and my family, I write my story. Words, stories, memories, they have no meaning in a place like this. A limbo beyond feeling and beyond certainty. Which is why I write. To tell the next man like Father. The next to be consumed by the entropy. May this note find you well.